What
Welcome
is
to the
up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fourth and 15 with Mel and Smooth. I am Mel, and joining me as always is Ronnie, Big Smooth Hannigan. Smooth, what's happening, man?
Not a whole lot, man. It's been a great weekend. Had some time with the family, and the kids are going to bed, so that always means more quiet in the house. What about you?
You know what? It was actually a good weekend, and I'll tell you why. First off, with all the sports stuff happening, with all the
Mhm.
signings and the free agency and basketball kicking up, it's about to be a very interesting 3 or 4 months. Plus, opening day is in like 6 days.
Very true.
So of course I'm ready for opening day. And I ref my first match this weekend, man.
Ooh, how'd that go?
It was weird. It wasn't a bad weird, but I got roped into it. Like I was in the locker room. Well, here's what happened. Here's what happened. I was,
Okay.
as a student, you have to go pay your dues, go do running, grab whatever they tell you to grab. So I'm like, all right, I can do that. I
Hmm.
get there, and my one of our trainers is also a booker. So he's booking the matches. Some things had happened, had to switch the card around. And one of the wrestlers is just like, well, why doesn't he ref? And I was like, why are you pointing at me? Like, do you
Oh.
know how to ref? I'm like, that's not my call. He's like, do you know how to ref? I'm like, I mean, it's not hard to count 1, 2, 3. I'm pretty sure. So he's like, well, why doesn't he ref? And I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. So I talked to the owner, talked to the booker. The owner says, if the booker's okay with it, I'm okay with it. Booker says, yeah, I'll need you. Tosses me the ref shirt. I'm like, oh, so y'all serious? Oh, okay.
It sounds like you were voluntold, man, not volunteered.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
saying.
but as a student, you gotta pay your dues. So I was just like, all right, I could do this. It's not hard. Just tell me what I need to know. He's like, stay the hell out the way. Don't get in front of the camera. 5 count in the corner, 3 count, and
Yeah.
ask them what the finish is. All right, that's fine. I can do that. Get out there. First match, cool. Not hard at all. Second match, same thing. All I can tell you is it is really, really hot in the ring. I didn't realize, like, watching it on TV is something totally different.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
finally understand why they sweat so much. It is really, really hot in the ring. And I didn't even do much. I didn't move. I
Hmm.
didn't chase nobody. I just stood in one area for most of these matches. I was sweating like I was running from somebody I should have been paying money to.
Oh man, that's the worst, bro.
But I had a lot of fun. I did. I had a lot of fun. It was a good show, good turnout. I couldn't ask for nothing else.
Well, that's good.
And speaking of good show, our guest for the night is the all-time leading scorer in indoor soccer. He is a three-time league champion, and he is now also the all-time winningest coach in John Carroll soccer history. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the great Hector Marinaro. Coach, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great, guys. How you guys doing?
Awesome.
Awesome.
Hey, we
Thanks for
feel
having me
blessed
on.
right now. Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. Like Mel said, when he first asked to have you brought on, at first I'm like, okay, we'll see if he says yes. I don't know if it'll happen. And in my head, I'm thinking, with all this technology and the different things that we have at our disposal to be able to do something like this, it was just pretty cool. And then even being as a young kid watching you play, I didn't think this would even be an opportunity myself. So when you said yes, I'm like, oh, did he really agree? Okay, cool. All right, I'll make sure I'm available for that. You know what I mean? So it's truly an honor to have you on. Seriously.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
Mhm. All right.
Okay, I do have one question, and it's only because I've been watching this game over and over. The 94 championship. It's the final game, it's the closeout game. It's at home, y'all at overtime. You make the game winning goal. Now, looking at it on TV, because ESPN covered it back then. So, looking at it on TV back then, it was very exciting. But looking at it now, when you get the pass from Schmelzer, you kick the ball in so nonchalantly. Was that part of it, or because you knew the game was over, or was that just a reaction because you weren't expecting the pass?
No, quite honestly, just a reaction. I saw George Fernandez played the ball down in the corner to Andy Schmetzer. I had a guy on me, and I knew Andy was so deep in the corner he had to play it off the boards. I spun my guy, went towards the goal, and I turned around, and there it was. So it was just a quick reaction. And quite honestly, if you watch the goal, I'm only 2 feet away from the goal, and I roofed it, which was if I'd have been a little bit farther out, I probably would have missed it. But it was close enough, and as I say, the rest is history. And by far the highlight of my playing career, that's for sure.
It was amazing because like they kept replaying it. That was the best part about it. They kept replaying it, and every time they replayed it, and they see you just. It was like a slow turn with a slow kick, and I was like, he knew that was going in. He had to.
Yeah, well, you know what? That close. If I didn't make it, I would have been hung by George Hoffman and the rest of my teammates. It was almost too close to miss. Put it that way.
Amen. But we're glad you made it.
Yeah,
and you guys went on to win 2 more championships. And I don't care personally what anybody says. You guys were the first team to break the championship curse since the Browns back in the 60s. I'm going to stick with that because it's the truth. If anybody tells me different or tries to tell me different, they're lying.
Well, I appreciate that. You know what? I always say this. Listen, we were hired to play soccer in the National Professional Soccer League. Our job was to win the championship in that league. We weren't playing in the NFL. We weren't playing Major League Baseball, playing professional soccer, and it was our job to win that championship. So people don't regard it as a championship worth counting. That's their problem. But anybody that goes to work every day and gets paid is a professional. So to me, it's a professional championship and something I'm very proud of.
Amen.
No, we definitely appreciate the fact that it came to Cleveland.
That's
like Mel said, there wasn't a whole lot happening at that moment, and that just livened the city up. We all were excited about it, especially when you guys had moved from Richfield to the Convocation Center. Because anyone who knows anything about Cleveland, I grew up about 5 minutes away from there, and we used to go to Crunch games a lot. So it's just cool to be able to not only have you on, but also to, like, relive those moments as well too.
Yeah. I think the move downtown was great for the sport and great for us.
Mm-hmm.
The Richfield Coliseum was awesome, but there really wasn't much to do after a game.
Right.
The move downtown. I know for a fact that the players loved it because all the younger guys after the games could go out to the flats and downtown, and us married guys. We'd go with our wives out to dinner downtown. So it really revitalized downtown as well. And, when Jacobs Field was built and the Q, and it was downtown really came to life right around that time. So it was awesome.
Definitely. Now, for those that don't know, so just to give everybody kind of a heads up here, with Hector joining our show, he did spend the majority of his indoor career with the Cleveland Crunch and also the Force. So speaking of which, we'd like to thank for sure Eric Davis and also Luciano Rosito for bringing our beloved franchise back to Cleveland, because it has been a while since we had them. So we're so thankful that the Crunch are back in action and that we're able to have one of the greats here with us on the show. Now, Hector, talk us through your time as a player. Like, where did it all start for you, and the time that you began to play soccer right until you came to
Cleveland? My parents were from Argentina. My professional soccer, and he started in Argentina and slowly worked his way north. Started in Argentina, played in Chile, played in El Salvador, played in Mexico, played in the U.S., and then finally played in Canada, and kind of retired in Canada. And were born in Canada. My sister was born in Argentina. So we really grew up with the sport. My dad was my first coach. He coached me all through my youth. He coached my brother as well. At the U18 level, we won the Canadian National Championship with my dad as the coach. So that was an awesome experience. It was 1982, and we beat a team from Vancouver, British Columbia, in the championship game, and won the national title when we were 18 years old. And then, quite honestly, I was playing some semi-pro soccer in Canada after that, and I was 18 years old, playing for a club called Toronto Italia, which was very similar to the Super League here with all the ethnic teams. You know, it was the Italians, the Greeks, the Latinos, the Croatians, the Serbians. Everybody had a team, and it was a very well-organized semi-professional league. Some of the teams were averaging 9,000 people per game.
Nice.
And it was a lot of veteran players that were really good players, and I was an up-and-coming player. And Timo Laikowski, who was the coach of the Cleveland Force back in 384, was up in Canada scouting the Robbie tournament. And at night he went to watch the semi-pro game, and I was playing. And he invited me to Cleveland for a tryout. And I had never, ever played indoor soccer before. I had never played soccer with boards before. But I grew up playing hockey, being in Toronto. When I was 5 years old, I started skating, playing hockey. Play hockey in the wintertime and soccer in the summertime. Those were my two favorite sports. So when I did come to Cleveland, it was the first time I ever played with sports. With boards. I really kind of got the hang of it pretty quickly because of my hockey career and playing hockey with the boards and stuff. So I found it a lot of fun to play with the boards, and it was an exciting game. It was a fun game. And I ended up making the Cleveland Force when I was 18 years old in 1983. So moved to Cleveland when I was 18 years old and spent the Force. And they were a very veteran team, very good team at that time. I spent 1 year here, and then I was released from the Force. Went back to Canada, played couple of years of outdoor soccer, played with the Toronto Blizzard back in the day. And then in 86, I returned to indoor soccer with the Minnesota Strikers, and spent 2 years in Minnesota and folded. Moved on to LA, played 1 year in LA. That team folded. And I became a free agent, and at that time, the Cleveland Crunch was coming back after the Force had folded. And at that time, I had an agent out in California, and I told him that, if I could get back to Cleveland, I really wanted to go back there because I really enjoyed my time with the Force back then, and ended up signing a 3-year deal with the Force. With the Cleveland Crunch back in 1989. And played here until 2004. So very fortunate. I played 21 years of professional soccer, and really couldn't have asked for much more.
Now, with that, Hector, and you fell right into kind of like what I was about to ask and everything. So this is perfect. I do have to ask you, while in Cleveland, of course, you won multiple championships. You had league MVP honors, which is great. And also, the city was very, very thirsty for a title in general. So when you came back to Cleveland and you're playing for the Crunch now, what was it like to win those titles as a Crunch player? Like, what was that feeling like to be able to say, I was a part of something that brought a championship or multiple championships to Cleveland?
As I said before, it's something I'm very proud of. I still get people come up to me and talk about the championships, and they were there just like you did at the press conference. And it's when Mel was telling me about his experience at the championship game, and he was there, and it's great to hear that as a player, that people appreciated what we did, what we brought to the city. And I know there was a lot of people that appreciated it. I think sometimes in the press it doesn't get played up, but I know in talking to a lot of soccer fans over the years here in Cleveland, everybody was so excited, everybody enjoyed it. And like I said, it was it was our job to try to win championships, and to win 3 of them. In the 90s, we were pretty dominant there from the mid 90s through the end of the 90s, and we really had an opportunity to win a championship every year. It is very, very difficult to win back to back, and we just couldn't get that monkey off our back, but we were able to win 94, 96, and 99. So. A lot of the credit also, Al Miller, George Hoffman. George Hoffman spent the money to bring in the players that we needed. Miller was the general manager who was the mastermind behind building the roster, and bringing in veteran defenders like Glenn Carbonera and Tim Tima, and Andy Schmetzer had been there for a long time. George Fernandez they brought back, who was the captain of the Crunch, and we just had a veteran squad that, it was our time. For me personally, I had played almost 10 years professionally already before I won my first championship. So it was really a big monkey off my back, because, I'd won MVP awards already, but I hadn't won the championship, so definitely a relief, and I think, you might see it when I'm celebrating that goal. It's finally happened. And
they couldn't catch you when you scored that.
I know. And that was double overtime, man. I mean, we were exhausted, but as soon as that ball went and the adrenaline hit, man, it was just, let's go, let's party, let's have a good time. And we did for a long time that night. We celebrated downtown in the flats, and so many people were down there. I think we went to Shooters that first night, and we could barely get in there because there's so many people celebrating. People out on the streets honking the horns. It was awesome. It really was.
The thing about that too is I had a small time frame to be able to experience that, because by the time I was old enough to even go down there to do anything, a lot of stuff was changing. The Powerhouse was still around. Shooters was there for a little bit. There were a couple of like clubs, stuff like that, kind of opened up. And I remember a Joe's Crab Shack for a very small time frame, right? So it was pretty cool, man.
Wait, there was a Joe's Crab Shack there? Wow.
Yeah, like right on the hill.
I think that's where we went after one of the championships, if I'm not mistaken. I think we had the place rented out, and we had a live band, all the families.
Nice.
It was a lot of fun.
All I remember is the Powerhouse, and now it's an aquarium. So yeah, my experiences in the flats and in that area are just not where I thought they would be.
What was it, Grand Slam Sports Bar in the Powerhouse? Yeah.
Up at the top, and then I was just about to say that.
Yep. That's actually where I met my wife, that Grand Slam. After
nice.
Yeah, the Grand Slam Sports Bar. Yeah, we met after one of our games, because we used to go there. That was also one of our places we'd go for the after parties. It was one of the sponsored after parties, and we'd all go there. And that's a lot of memories, a lot of great memories. The flats.
Now, Hector, I have to ask you too, man, because just thinking back in that era, like between the mid 80s, mid 90s, you have your championships and stuff going on and all the successful play. And I didn't know that it took you that long to get the first one. Which I know you felt, relieved after that first one came. And then after that, you probably like, okay, we got one. So let's keep getting as many as we can, obviously, as an athlete, right? Now, talk a little bit about the international play. What was that like when you had a chance to, play for the Canadians?
It was, you know what? It was an honor, obviously, to play for Canada.
Hmm.
They back in the day, the Canadian national team was very English style oriented. So
Hmm.
my style of play, and a lot of the indoor players. You look at Bronco Segota, Tino Lettieri, who was the goalie from Minnesota. There was a lot of great players playing indoor.
Hmm.
We're kind of overlooked a little bit by the Canadian national team because we were playing indoor. And they would rely more on the guys that were playing in Europe and the Scottish and English leagues and stuff. And I really think they missed out on a lot of great players for quite a few of those years.
Oh yeah.
I wish I would have had more opportunities with the Canadian national team, but wasn't meant to be. And I was having fun in the indoor game. The indoor game was suited my style of play. A lot of goals, a lot of action, a lot of fun, and really, really, really had a blast playing indoor soccer for so many years.
Now with indoor soccer, because I know you had talked about how you were involved with Cleveland, with the Crunch, and then also, the Force for those last couple of years. With that time frame before you retired, you were also called upon to be an assistant coach as well, too, right? What was
Yeah,
that like for you? Like, did you kind of figure at that moment? Is this when you kind of were like, well, I guess going into what you're doing now, was that kind of when you thought like, oh, I can actually do this, or did you always want to become a coach because of your dad or something like that?
yeah. You know what? It's funny. Now it's the family business. my, my dad coached professionally, coached the youth levels, was a general manager professionally.
Hmm.
Um, Brother has been the head coach at Kent State University for the women's program for 23 years. Uh,
Nice
yeah,
alumni right here.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, here
nice.
you go.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
So
flashes, baby.
he's been a golden flash for 23 years since '97. He was actually Otto Orff's backup goalie in '97.
Wow.
State was starting the women's program, so it was the first year of the program, and they hired him as an assistant coach in '97. And then 2 years later, the coach left, and he became the head coach. So he's been there. He's been there since 1997 at Kent State, and he's had
Nice.
terrific, terrific career. Where family's very, very proud of him. What he's done at Kent State, he's really built that program from the ground up, and he's been a part of that program since the very first day in '97. And but for me, yeah, the opportunity with the Crunch really came about when um, Bruce Miller, who was a really good friend of mine,
Hmm.
was relieved of his duties by the new ownership that took over for George Hoffman. Dick Dietrich and Paul Garofolo took over, and the new ownership had their ideas of how they wanted the team coached. And Bruce had won 2 championships, and I think he had a pretty better idea than the ownership, but they were the ones paying the bills. So Bruce was relieved of his duties, and Andy Schmetzer became the head coach. So Andy and I had played together for years. He needed an assistant coach. I was still playing, and he asked me to be his player assistant coach. So Andy's one of the, if you've never met Andy Schmetzer, he's one of the best people you'll ever meet in your life. Great person. The whole family, his brother Brian now, who coaches the Seattle Sounders. He's won 2 MLS championships. Andy's twin brother Walt, who also played for the Force long time ago. Great family, great people. So when Andy asked me to help him out, I couldn't say no because of everything we've been through with the Crunch
Yeah.
days and championships together. And we were a very close knit team. We were like family. So one of your family members asks you to do something, you do it, right? So
For
that's how
sure.
I really
Now
became
I
the
do
player assistant
I
coach.
do have one question. Uh Actually it's two, but I'm gonna break it down. when you first got to the indoor leagues and you noticed that there was a big discrepancy between goal sizes, did that throw you off a bit, or did you just run with it because you felt like it could make it work? Because I know I've tried playing indoor soccer and I've gotten very frustrated trying to shoot what I thought would be a goal in outdoors and indoors is bouncing off the wall. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, you know what? It was, for us, it just kind of fit the size of the field, So, and the nice thing was, if you shot wide, it came right back into play, So, you knew you were going to get another opportunity if you just missed the net, or your teammate would get an opportunity. So, but I tell you what, back in 83, 84, when I first started, the indoor goals were even smaller. They were really small.
Wow.
Later, as the leagues evolved, the goals got a little bit bigger. But if you look at like the very early days at the Coliseum, man, those goals were really small. And I still say one of my best seasons ever was my second year in Minnesota with those little goals. We used to play 56 games a season back then. And I led the league in scoring with 58 goals in 56 games and those tiny little goals. And, I beat the likes of Tattoo and Preki and Steve Jungle and Bronco Segota, Eric Rasmussen, Tattoo. All those guys were in their heyday. And I was a young 22-year-old playing in Minnesota. Really had my big breakout year. That was my first All-Star season, and but those goals were small back in the day, and they eventually started making them a little bit bigger so scoring can go up a little bit. They made it a little more difficult to score, obviously, right? Those little goals, but
Man.
Exciting game, and back in the day, the games were like 6-5, 5-4. With the smaller goals, but still a lot of action. I think it was the perfect sport for American people. Soccer, but it also gave them the action of hockey, basketball. It combined a lot of the sports, and I loved playing it. I think it was a blast playing it, especially at the college. Yeah.
And one thing I'll say about that, Hector, is I had mentioned this on a previous show, but I wanted to make sure I told you face to face. Honestly, if I hadn't have come to see you play, I probably wouldn't watch soccer at all. Like, that's how serious it was.
Yeah.
I just thought you should know, because growing up in the inner city, I mean, we weren't really playing soccer at all. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something that wasn't a youth sport. Yeah, it was always, basketball, football. You had guys who played, some baseball a little bit too, or did some other things indoor, but soccer just wasn't one of them. We weren't traveling around and doing that or being used to that kind of stuff. And to be able to see you play and the rest of the guys out there with you on the team, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I can get into this, and it made me kind of look more at like what the sport was, some of the great players that were in it, from an international level, watching it, So, I definitely appreciate that influence that you had on me, especially just to be able to check out the game in general.
Yeah.
And I have a buddy of mine who, unfortunately, he wasn't able to join tonight, but he's a former MLS player, and we actually got a chance to go to a couple of games together as well to be able to watch you. He always like, hey, this Hector, man, check out Hector, I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm gonna check him out. And, me following the game and just seeing what you were doing out there, it was like, okay, cool. I understand. I get it. I understand. This is really exciting. And the acoustics in the convocation center was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you would have thought 30,000 people was in there. So
I know.
Actually, looking at that 94 championship game, they easily could have got another 2,000 in there. Like, they didn't even,
absolutely.
They just didn't want nobody on the boards. But if they were, if they put another 2,000 and let them get ground level, man, that place would have probably caved in.
Yeah,
man, it would have shook the whole building up, man.
Yeah. Going back
to
other
question was
but I would tell people all the time, people like you that have never seen the game before. We used to do a lot of appearances and stuff, and people are like, soccer, I'm really not into it. And I'm like, listen, just come to one indoor soccer game, all right? And if you don't have the time, all right, then I'll buy your ticket for you, all right? But if you have a good time, then you keep coming back. And they came and they're like, you're right, man, this is different. It's fun. It's exciting. And I had, back in the day, I was living in Brunswick, and beautiful neighborhood. And we had a whole lot of neighbors that I met, and they're like, oh yeah, we're really not into soccer, but our kids are playing now. So they used to come to our games, and man, they got all hooked on it, and they would come to all the games. And it was fun to see people really kind of enjoy the indoor game, because it was a lot of fun. And so many people were like, man, yeah, I'm glad I went, and I'll go again, because it's, I coach outdoor soccer. I watch a lot of outdoor soccer, and it can be boring sometimes, right? If it's the truth. If if you get one team that just wants to play defense, it's going to make it difficult, and it's going to be a boring game, right? But
I have no objection to that. I am not objecting.
Not at all.
It's,
man.
But trust me, I live it because we at John Carroll we try to play as much soccer as we can, and play and entertain and go forward and attack. And we're one of the top teams in the conference right now. So a lot of teams will try to park the bus and really defend and really not come out and play us. So really makes for boring games, and that's not the way I want to teach soccer. And that's I would never ask my players to go out there and sit there and play defense for 90 minutes. So
yeah, because that's way too long to play defense
and play soccer.
Yeah, man,
that's way too long to play defense.
Exactly. Because you figure you're sitting there trying to follow it, and all you see is these long passes, and guys just playing like 4 or 5 back.
No, the part that frustrates me
sometimes too.
The part that frustrates me is when they look like they're about to attack, and then it goes backwards. Like, why are you going backwards?
Oh man, that's the worst.
I hate it. I was watching, what was that? Because I caught a glimpse of it before our show yesterday. And I think it was Germany. It was a World Cup qualifying match for Germany against somebody. And Germany scored, and I guess they went in, all right, we got one. Let's just keep it away from them. I'm like, dude, why would you go backwards? Stop kicking it. Stop passing backwards. You got one goal. Go up. Like, take a shot. Go for the kill. Like, if you go up, the thing I noticed about outdoor soccer, if you're up 2 goals, at least you're in the clear. Why do you need to play defense after that? Like, it's gonna take you 45 minutes, literally, for most games, an entire half to score 1 goal. If you get 2, you should be in the clear. There should be no reason you should be playing defense.
Should be real hard to catch up after that.
Right.
Yeah.
I can see if it was arena football or even basketball, you down a couple points or down a shot or two, it'd be different. But you have 2 goals. There should be no reason to play defense.
Right. It took you all that work just to get the goal. Like, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, it took you that much work to get that goal. Like, you should
just one.
That.
Just one.
Just say it. Oh,
trust me. I've turned off many outdoor games on my TV. So it's
But you know what? I do give the crew a lot of credit for this, because I guess the coach had took a page out of you guys' book, and he actually attacks, which is a good thing, because he puts a lot of pressure on those goalkeepers. And I think that's the part that makes it exciting for me. I think that's why MLS is exciting for me, because some of these coaches actually get it.
Yeah.
Like, we need to score. We have to push the ball. You can't just play defense. I get it. Penalty kicks are exciting sometimes.
Yeah.
The fouls sometimes get aggressive. That's okay too. But like, if you're trying to win a championship, you have to put points on the board some way, somehow. And watching the Crew win the championship, they were very aggressive,
Yeah,
very,
I watched that
very
game.
loose.
Yeah, I watched that game, and they were by far the better team. Actually, it was Brian Schmetzer, the Seattle coach. It was Andy Schmetzer's brother. And Caleb Porter, who was the coach of the Crew, who was Akron's coach for a while. Great young American coach, has done a tremendous job. Won a championship in Portland, then took a few years off, and now with the Crews won another championship. But yeah, he likes to put pressure on teams, and came up with a great game plan for the championship, and they fully deserved to win the title.
And it's something that definitely was, a long time coming, especially for the Crew. And then, me and Mel have had different episodes. We talked about how you have, the championship being won here for the Crew. And then you also have like, the Browns trying to turn things around and whatnot. And then it's just weird because you can't necessarily get all the teams to do it in Cleveland or, locally. It's always like that one or two teams that kind of just click and then they go from there.
Yeah.
And the rest start to kind of like fall by the wayside because who knows what the Cavs are doing right now. I don't know. It's weird. And then when it comes to
and the Indians right now are a little iffy.
it's like
the Browns are awesome. The Crew's been a lot of fun to watch. It's time. This is, no matter what you do, this is a Browns team. Care what you say. This is a Browns team. And I'm so happy that the Browns are good. And the moves they've made this offseason now to shore up the defense.
Oh my gosh.
I can't wait for a training camp to start.
Me too, man. Like they loaded up, and then you figure you got the draft coming up soon in Cleveland. First draft here in the city.
Yeah.
So that's huge. So it's just a lot of excitement around it, man, and I can't wait.
Yeah.
Hector, I got to ask you too. So, we see how successful you are as a coach at John Carroll University, which we appreciate because I have a lot of people that live near University Heights. And, for those of you who are big American football fans, London Fletcher went there, history fact. Now, here's another thing I want to ask you, though. So, outside of your soccer career, as a player and then currently as a coach, tell us a little bit more about Hector, the man, the family man. Like, how did that all start? You said you met your wife, in the flats, right? Which is a cool story because anytime you get people to meet in Cleveland, man, something magical happens. I met my wife there. So what's that like for you, man? What's like for you outside of soccer?
Well, quite honestly, it's the best part of my life. My wife and I have been married for 27 years now. Our son Jesse is 25 years old. My daughter Janice will be 23 on Thursday, April Fool's Day, and she was 2:30 in the morning, April Fool's Day. It was like, yep, April Fool's Day. But both of them have graduated from John Carroll University. My son Jesse is working down in Fort Myers, Florida now. Just moved him there about 3 weeks ago. Great. Working for Gartner Corp, which is a big corporation down in Fort Myers.
Nice.
And we bought a little condo down in Fort Myers now, so I got a place to go visit every once in a while. My daughter is, it's funny, you talk about the John Carroll and the soccer community and the Cleveland Crunch and full circle. My daughter is now working for Louis Kostelic, who is the new coach of the Cleveland Crunch. He's the HR director for Vintage Wines in Solon, Ohio. And my daughter started working there 3 weeks ago for him. She just graduated in December. And, quite honestly, my personal life is I can't ask for anything more. Got a great family, great kids, everybody healthy. My mom's 87 years old, doing really well, still live in Toronto, Canada. unfortunately, we lost my dad in 2017 to Alzheimer's.
Sorry to hear that.
A big loss for us, but my sister's still up in Canada. Like I said, my brother's here. My nephew, Michael Marinaro, just turned 21 yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday.
So
Yeah.
you can officially have a beer now. Yeah, so my personal life, anybody who knows me knows family is the most important thing to me. It's what I preach to all my players. If you want to be a great team, you have to respect and care for each other, and become a family, and that's what we preach. The more you take care of each other, the more you bond together, the better you're going to be on the field. So it's but going back to the Louis Kostelic. So Louis's dad, Tony, the Cleveland Crunch equipment manager for almost 15 years. So Louis Kostelic used to be in our locker room when he was 5-6 years old, and grew up with the indoor game as well. And when I took over John Carroll in 2006, he was a freshman on the team. So he
wow.
3 years.
Wow.
And then we brought him back 3 or 4 years later. We started a reserve program, JV, but a reserve team at John Carroll. And he became the head coach of the reserve team for us. And I think he was with us for 7 or 8 years before he stepped aside to start a family. Now he's got 2 little ones, and now he's the head coach of the Cleveland Crunch. So
it's full circle for real.
Real full circle. Wow.
Yeah, and I know how excited he is to coach the Crunch because he grew up with the Crunch. Like I said, he was in our locker room. I've known him since he was 5-6 years old, and his dad was a huge part of our championships as well. It's the soccer community is definitely a close-knit community, and how many people out there that are all connected in some way.
And one of our viewers, Lafaya, who frequents our show, she happened to ask, what was the best part of your Crunch career?
The best part of my Crunch career, I think, we touched on it a little bit. It has to be the 94 championship, the first one. Like I said, I was lucky enough, privileged enough to score the game winner in double overtime. And, great story about that Tima, who was an unsung hero, hard-nosed defender for us, sacrifices all the time for the sake of the team. Well, he hit an absolute bomb in the first overtime. Like, he's never hit a shot that good in his life. All right. And it hit the crossbar and went out. And then, I score the tap in from 2 feet out. And he's like, that's typical Marinaro. I hit the shot of my life. He's standing there, it hits his foot and goes in, and he gets all the glory, but yeah, Tim Tima tells that story all the time. But for the thing people don't know, but the 94, the championship, the disappointment of the 93 championship series, we lost in Game 5 in Kansas City, and to come that close, the deciding game in Kansas City, and quite honestly, we got blown out of that game. We didn't play well, and so the disappointment at 93 is really what drove us going into the 93-94 season. And when we got that chance in the championship series, I think people don't realize it. That was only Game 4. So if we would have lost that game, we had to go back to St. Louis, which kind of would have been exactly as the year before. That was the Kansas City series. So we did not want to go back to St. Louis. We really wanted to take care of business in Game 4, and it was a hell of a game. Otto played out of his mind in the first overtime. I don't know if we were outshot 15-1 in the first overtime, and Otto stood on his head and really kept us in the game. And I don't know if the highlight of the championship of the game-winning goal, he starts the whole play by making a save at one end, and that's kind of what started the counterattack that led to the goal. And earlier, I think it was the first overtime, but Otto ended up tearing his quad, and
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and he was limping around, but he wasn't coming out of that game for anything. So, if we didn't win that game, I don't know what would have happened in Game 5, because Otto tore his quad. There's no way he could have played. And thank God we took care of business. But the '94 championship is something. Every time, Mel, you talk about, you see that highlight all the time. Every time I see it, I still get chills. It was the highlight of my career, playing wise, and it was awesome.
Now, I do want to ask this, because this one, I understand how it feels to be a coach in some way. So I have to ask, when you took the job at John Carroll, what did your dad have anything to say? Did he have anything to say, or did you go to him for advice, or was it just, oh no, you're gonna have to learn on your own?
No, I talk. Excuse me. I talk to my dad all the time about everything. He, my mom and dad used to drive every single weekend from Toronto to the Crunch games. They would come down every single weekend. After my dad retired, he became a bus driver for the Toronto Transit Commission. So he drove buses, streetcars, subways, and he would finish his shift Friday afternoon, and he'd drive down to Cleveland and get to Cleveland for Friday night games. And my brother played in Buffalo for a while, and they would go to Buffalo, Cleveland. They just loved the game. They used to come to games. Most of the time, they would stay at my house, and we talked about every game. After every single one of my pro games, I would call him, talk to him about the game. What happened. Back then there wasn't so much TV up in Canada for him to watch the games, so there wasn't internet and stuff, so he couldn't listen to the games on the radio. So I would call him after every game and fill him in what happened, how we did. How many goals you score? What'd you do? And had to give him the rundown, and it was really cool for them, because I really grew up as a defender. My dad was a center back in outdoor soccer, and so was I. I really didn't become a forward until I went to Minnesota in '86, and I only became a forward because of injuries to a lot of our forwards. And I always had a knack for scoring as a defender. So Alan Merrick, who was the coach in Minnesota, was like, "Hey, we need you to play up front for us for a couple games. We got some injuries." And I'm like, "I just want to play. Put me in, coach. I'll play anywhere you want." And ended up scoring a few goals. And he's like, "Hey, you're doing well. You want to keep playing there?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Goal scorers get all the glory, so I'll keep trying to score some goals." And as they say, it turned out to be a pretty good move for me.
Obviously, you became the all-time leading scorer. Nobody's topped you. Like I can only imagine what the coach was thinking after you scored like 2 goals. He's like, "Yeah, he's playing offense."
And it really was. It was actually my roommate at the time, who David Byrne. He was an English player, but we had played together in Toronto, and he actually helped me get to Minnesota with the tryout and everything. And he broke his foot. He was the team's leading scorer. He broke his foot, and then another guy got hurt, and that's kind of what led to me being put forward. And then when he came, him and I played together on the first line, and we created a really good tandem. And I was very fortunate In Minnesota, I got to play with David Byrne, who was a great target forward. Then I went to LA and played with Gary Heel, another English forward who was a great target forward. And then, coming to Cleveland and playing with Zoran Karic, that was the cherry on top, because there wasn't anybody that could pass the ball as well. And we clicked from day one. When he came to Cleveland, we really hit it off right away. He was married with 2 little kids. I was single, living by myself, and him and his wife would have me over. She would cook all kinds of Serbian foods for me, and man, I ate like a king with her. And it was I spent a lot of time at Z's place, back in my single days, and we really bonded off the field as well as on the field. And actually, I was just at his house a couple of days ago. He just had his hip replaced, so he's recovering, and went to see how he's doing. And sure enough, his wife started cooking up some food just like the old days, and she mentioned that. She's like, "Oh man, this feels like 30 years ago." It's hard to believe. It was 89 when he came, or 1990, February of 1990 when he came. So 31 years ago. And
man,
wow,
yeah, it's crazy. His the little girls. He had 2 little girls at that time, and one of them is going to turn 40, which is
wow.
I know, it's just crazy, but my son Jesse's 25 now. My daughter's going to be 23. And it's crazy how time flies. But Z and I are still great friends. Otto and I have the John Carroll men's soccer golf outing every year, and my foursome is usually Otto Orr, myself, and George Fernandez, and we invite George Hoffman along as our caddy. Kind of, he hits a few shots. He's gotten a little bit older, obviously, but he rides around in the cart with us, and we just have a great time reminiscing about everything, and we're all still best of friends.
Cool. 2 of our viewers, this guy, Damien. Damien wants to know, where is the guy that used to do the score dance?
It's funny, Dancing Dan. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he just followed me on Twitter a week ago. And so if you look him up on Twitter, I think his handle might be like the real Dancing Dan.
Wow.
But he's still around. Yeah.
Man.
It's funny, like years after I retired, I ran into him. Used to be Harpo's Sports Bar. Do you guys remember Harpo's back in the day? It was a sports bar. There was a couple of them, but ran into him at the bar. We went in there to watch some sporting event. He was sitting at the bar watching the games, and it was good to see him after so many years. And he made a good name for himself by just doing a little jig after every goal.
Yeah, he was actually pretty good. He reminded me of the drummer at Jacobs Field,
John Adams. So John Adams, another good friend of mine, great guy. He started bringing the drum to our games, and
really
games. Yeah, he loved the indoor soccer games because it gave him something to do in the wintertime, right? But his wife at the time used to come to all the games. And actually, I'd love to, send out a shout out to John, because he's been struggling a little bit with health. I think he's going to miss opening day for the first time in, I think, 47 years, or I don't know how many years. But he's had some health issues. So, John, love you guys. I hope you're doing well, and hope to see you at an Indians game real soon. But every time I go to an Indians game, I go up there and say hello to him. And to this day,
nice.
Great guy.
That's awesome. We send our prayers and well wishes to him as well.
Yeah.
And Faya with another question. She like to know, do you view yourself as the soccer do you view yourself the soccer hero of Cleveland doing that during that time and now even as a coach?
Um, that it was. I didn't view myself as the hero. I think I was kind of labeled that because of the game-winning goal, my popularity at the time. Otto, myself, and Z were pretty much on the news quite a bit. But for me personally, I never viewed myself as the hero because it takes a whole team to win championships, and we had so many great players. I was just fortunate enough, like, to put that last kick in, right? So it's given me, I guess, the hero status. But there's so many unsung heroes in that game, like we said, Otto Orff and Andy Schmetzer, George Fernandez, Tim Tima. I mean, on, and you just don't win championships with one person. You look at even LeBron, right? He needed help. As good as LeBron is, he needs help. And if you don't got wingman with you, man, you can't win anything. And we had some great teams. And now as a coach, it's funny because most of the kids that play for me have got no clue about my career and what I accomplished. They just know I played a long time ago, but I'm coaching kids that were born in the 2000s. So it's, indoor soccer, what is that? The indoor game's kind of gone by the wayside. So, but hopefully the new crunch brings it back, and we can showcase it to a whole new generation.
Very
Absolutely.
true.
Now, Coach, I gotta ask you too.
Go ahead, Ronnie. Go ahead.
No, you good. I gotta ask you, Coach, too, because this is something that I always want to kind of put out there for anyone that we have who is, a player who used to be a player, coach, whatever. What is a message that you have for the youth out there that are looking to make, a career out of soccer or to get involved in it as heavy as you were?
I tell you what, I mean, don't give up on your dreams. Follow your dreams. For me, with my dad being a professional soccer player, that was my dream. I wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps. And, the thing is practice. You can never, ever stop getting better at what you do. Do not be happy with where you're at. Always look to improve. I tell my players this every single day. There's always room for improvement. You can always get better at something, So don't ever think that you're where you need to be. Continue to work at your craft, work at what you're doing. Dreams, if it's something that you're really, really put your mind to it, make it happen, but it takes a lot of practice, takes some luck, but don't let anybody tell you no. Just keep going.
That's awesome.
Okay.
To hear.
I told myself I wasn't going to do this, but I got two more things.
All right.
And the first one happened to come from when I was trying to find a decent action photo, but I came across this one.
Uh-oh. Oh, look at that mullet.
It's not even the mullet. It's not even the mullet. Who were you mad at in this photo?
I think, based on my eyes and stuff, it looked like I might have just woke up. Somebody woke me up. It might have been, like early morning practice where like, oh, we're taking pictures too. And it's like, oh God, I just woke up. So probably that, but back in the day, it wasn't cool to smile, right? You got, if you're going to compete and try to win championships, you had to have that mean face. And I don't know, but pretty badass picture if you ask me.
I have no problem with the way this picture looked. I just wanted to know because I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I wanted to use this one for the posting today, but I'm just like, I don't know how he's gonna react to that one, so we're just gonna save it for the show.
You know what?
Because I was like,
It had to be. It probably had to be practice because if you look, I'm wearing like a gray undershirt. Like I never wore a gray undershirt when I played, so it might have been we might have been practicing. And that was the practice shirt, and we just put the game jersey on for the picture, or it might have been during warm-ups or something. But it was it definitely wasn't as part of a game thing because I never wore an undershirt when I was playing, so something fishy there.
do you? Speaking of game worn stuff, do you still have any of your uniforms from back in the day or jerseys rather?
Yeah, actually, when I retired, my parents got my jersey framed for me.
Nice.
I think it's the jersey from the '94 game, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of those. Trying to remember, it might not be the '94. It might be the '96 or '99 championship. But it was one of the championship years, and they had it engraved for me with thank you for all the memories, and it was a special gift from my parents. So I do have somebody actually gave me my first Cleveland Force jersey
Wow.
about 4 months ago, and
How did they even get that? I didn't think those
oh, you
were.
know who? Do you remember George Nanchoff?
That name sounds familiar. Wasn't he a
George
player with
Nanchoff.
you?
George Nanchoff played with the Cleveland Force. He was an All-American at Akron University, played for the U.S. national team, played for the Cleveland Force. And George is an old friend of mine, runs the International Soccer Club for years here in Northeast Ohio, one of the biggest clubs around here. And it's so funny. He just moved. He sold his house and moved to a smaller condo. And as he was going through all his old stuff, he found my jersey, and he goes, "I don't know how I got it, but," and he brought it over to my house and gave it to me. So it's funny. I can't believe I fit in that thing. It was 1983 when I was 18 years old. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
You want to see it?
Sure. I'd
sure.
love to.
All right, give me a second. I'll be right back.
Oh, I gotta check this out.
Man, I was gonna say I didn't even think those were even easy to find. Like, how do you? It's amazing what you come across when you're not looking for stuff.
Man, these are the best parts of the show too, because you figure,
Man,
we'll know what we know, but then when they have something like that we can just check out that's raw and unedited.
imagine what that trophy case looked like.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
All right, you guys ready?
Wow,
Oh
Look at that.
that is throwback.
Yeah,
man.
and there's the.
Wow, how awesome!
Classic.
Yeah, it was
That is
1983
crazy.
or it's got like the embroidered number and the name at the bottom. Pretty.
Now just imagine how well that's been kept because I've seen some
I
throwbacks
know.
and
Isn't that
some
crazy?
jerseys that
Yeah.
that have not held up very well. That is awesome.
Mhm.
You know why I wore number 5? That was my dad's number.
Oh wow, I did not know that. Learned something new today.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when I became number 21 in Minnesota, when I signed with them, I wanted number 5, and it was already taken. So
Okay.
they offered me 3 different numbers, and my favorite hockey player from the Toronto Maple Leafs was number 21. So I picked number 21.
Nice.
That's
I
pretty
wore
cool.
it. I wore it.
Now,
Actually, the other picture you posted in LA I was number 20. But to LA, somebody had 21, so I took 20, which was right next to it. Yeah.
now I have to ask just off general purpose, how did you feel when you found out the Crunch were coming back?
Very excited. You know, for me and for, Otto, Z, all the guys that played for the Crunch that still live around here, people were like, "Oh, what did you do for a living?" And we're like, "Oh, we played indoor soccer." And like, "What's that?" Right now, it's back. So people, it's getting the recognition again. People are talking about myself and Otto and Z again. So it's kind of brought up the 90s and the championships, and so it's been nice to relive all that. Thing I'm excited about the most is a lot of the guys that are playing for the team right now. I've coached quite a few of them. I know pretty much all of them. I would say probably 80% of them I've known over the years, and I cannot tell you how excited these guys are to represent the Cleveland Crunch. And that's the best part for me. So many guys are getting the opportunity to live out the dream of playing for the Cleveland Crunch, and getting to do what I got to do. And that was, kick a soccer ball and have some fun, and try to win championships. And that's the thing I love. Seeing the guys wearing the Cleveland Crunch game. Mel, I told you I was at the game last Saturday. And I tried to get away from everybody, and I was on the other side. I was actually by the Colorado bench at the very end, all by myself, and just watching the game, taking it all in. And a few of the players saw me there, and like during the breaks, they came over and like, "Hey, thanks for coming. We're so glad you're here," and it means a lot to us that you're here. After the game, Mikey Durasic, who's a freaking awesome player right now, tearing it up for the Crunch. I wish I would have had the opportunity to play with him back in the day. And he shot me a message through social media. Thanks for coming to the game. It really means a lot to us players, and that was really nice. That was special. So I'm happy for all the guys that get the opportunity to put on that jersey and represent Cleveland, because it's a great sports town. Absolutely love this place. Even though I was born and raised in Toronto, I'm a Clevelander now. Been here since '83. This is my home. My kids were born here. My wife was born here, so it's definitely my home. And no other greatest sports town in the world, I think.
And for those watching, that just confirms it. If you ain't never been to Cleveland, if you're thinking about Cleveland as a city, and you hear all the bad things about Cleveland, it's awesome. You just heard it.
See my cup? We support all the teams here, baby.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Dame, you're goofy, man. You're goofy. Dame wants to know, how good was the pay during that time? Dame, you don't have a soccer bone in your body. How are you even asking about soccer?
You know what?
I'm playing, Dame. I'm playing.
Yeah. No, it was, for me, honestly, there was different levels of pay within the team. Quite honestly, back in the Force days, the early days, in the '80s, the money was really good. There was some guys making $250,000 a year in the '80s. Then some of the big time owners kind of went away, but from the time I was 18 until I was 39 when I retired, I never did anything except kick a soccer ball. And it didn't make me a millionaire, that's for sure. But it gave me a great life. Like I said, I never had to get a second job. I always just played soccer. And so I had it definitely enough to support a family. Well into the six figures, and it was, was a good time, but we definitely weren't doing it for the money. That's for sure.
Yeah, you can tell because, like, just seeing the camaraderie and just seeing how you guys gelled and the synergy that was there, and then
Yeah,
just the fans being bought into it. Not at one time, even as a child watching it and trying to, shout out and get somebody's attention or whatever else, it felt like the team was embraced by the city and the team also embraced the city. Like you could
and that,
tell that there was that relationship there to the point where you didn't feel like, oh, this guy's too big, to say hi or to wave or to sign an autograph, something like that.
yeah,
And the players themselves, I'm sure, just based off what I saw back then, felt appreciated, by
yeah.
the fanfare. So, like you said, great sports town, and it's just something that we'll always remember. And we're just so thankful to have you not only here on the show, but also the fact that you took that time to, represent the city the way that you did.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm happy. I'm happy you came back. And no,
Yeah,
no, because this is it. I'm not bashing anybody in any way, but it's a known fact. Once most athletes leave their hometown, and you yourself consider Cleveland your hometown, they don't come back. So for you to come back and actually give back in a way that most kids would actually dream about doing,
Hmm.
that you can't ask for that. Like Deion Sanders, for example, we've talked about this the last couple of shows. He took the job at Jackson State.
Jackson State, baby. Yeah.
See, he even Hector knows. See, man, y'all better get hip, man.
Oh yeah.
But he took a job that I'm not gonna say nobody wanted, but he took a job which was a challenge. How can
Hmm.
I bring, how can I bring notoriety back to Jackson State? How can I bring notoriety back to black college football? And he's making an impact. You took the job at John Carroll. Nobody expected John Carroll to be as good as they were or as they are. And 15 years later, 16 years later, you're the all-time winningest coach in the soccer team's history. That's a big deal. I mean, I know
Huge.
you're as humble as you are and as nice as a person you have been your whole life. That for me speaks volumes because you
Oh,
don't
I
see coaches
appreciate
like that anymore.
I appreciate it. And I think, quite honestly, um, it's my mom and dad. That's the way I was brought up. Treat everybody the way you'd like to be treated, you know. And the thing with the crunch and all us players, we were very approachable. People would come to the games. After games, we'd go up on the concourse, we'd sign autographs. We talked to our fans. We used to go to the Booster Club banquets every year and support our Booster Club that who supported us. So we were very connected to the fans, and like I said, it was. I think back in the day, the players were a little bit more approachable.
Hmm.
Social media and phones and internet, and it's just players got to be so careful with everything they do and they say, and they um, thank God they didn't have phones when I was playing, because we,
Man.
we had a lot of good times and we had a lot of fun, but I'm glad a lot of that stuff didn't get on social media, because that's how you become a family. We had so many good times with all the guys traveling together, and it's how we bonded. We bonded
Right.
more on the field than we did on the field, and the bonds we all created together as a family. We took that into the games with us.
Exactly. Okay. We do have two short topics we need to talk about. If you want to chime in with us, you're more than welcome to. We actually would love it. If you have other obligations, we completely understand. Um, I do want to get this out the way because for those that don't know, it is World Cup qualifying time. And as we all
Mm.
know, we have high expectations for the men's U.S. soccer team. So, with
Had,
that being
had,
said,
had.
you cannot be this cruel, man.
Oh, hold on,
It's
hold on, hold on. That's the World Cup team still has a chance. It's the Olympic
it's the Olympic team.
Team screwed up yesterday. Screwed up real bad. Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna say, that was
Olympics
bad.
in a row, man. It's terrible.
It hurt, man. It hurt.
Yeah.
I will go down a couple scores because I know, like I said, all over the world, it's World Cup qualifying time.
Yeah.
So they're getting ready for that. My expectations is always Brazil. I'm big fan of Brazil. I'm sticking with Brazil. Hopefully they turn it around for me because I've been banking on them to win and they've been letting me down. But
I'm glad they let you down.
You know, speaking of which, Coach, have you been following the Argentinian team?
Yeah, that's my team. I've always, first with Diego Maradona back in the day, and now with Messi. My dad being from Argentina, that's always been my team, and that's Brazil is Argentina's biggest rival. So, sorry, man.
But you know what? Those are the most entertaining soccer games because they don't hold anything back.
They don't.
Passion. You talk about passion and rivalries. Oh my God! People in the U.S. do not know what passion and rivalry are until you go to a Brazil Argentina game. And it is life.
I believe it.
It is. Yeah, it is brutal. Okay.
Couple scores from yesterday. Iraq gets over Uzbekistan 1-0. United Arab Emirates 6-0 over India. Ecuador got one in on Bolivia 2-1. That must have been a great game. The shocking one of the CONCACAF, which is the Americans and Virgin Islands and Caribbean to a degree. Canada over the Cayman Islands 11-0.
That was today, wasn't it?
I believe so.
11-0.
11. I'm looking square at it. 11-0 over the
those
Cayman
that don't
Islands.
do soccer.
You want to hear a great story about the Cayman Islands? So, one of my teammates in Minnesota, Fogarty, English guy, great defender. He was a veteran on the team when I was a young guy. He became the coach of the Cayman national team
Nice.
10 years ago. And so he, Cayman Islands, tax-free, right? So he made some good money. And he goes, I knew I was in trouble when he got off the airplane and the bus driver introduced himself as the number 10 on Cayman Islands national team. So he goes, in trouble when my best player is the bus driver. And
hey man, sometimes you got to get it.
Last 11-0. So
okay, and then to round out the scores, Egypt gets in on the Comoros Islands 4-0, and who was that? Algeria gets Botswana 5-0. So it looks like these races to get that spot are going to be well deserved this year. I'm excited because this is one of those times you see the sport is really getting back to where it was, dare I say, the 70s when Pele was making his mark in the U.S. The indoor soccer craze of the 80s and 90s. With that being said, I should have asked this before we switch topics, but this brought up a very interesting thought in my head. Who wins this match? 90s crunch, 2021's crunch. Head to head, both teams in the prime. Who wins that match? I want you to be completely honest.
Do you really need me to answer that question?
I don't need you to answer it. But you know what? The fans might want to hear it. I just thought it was a good enough question because I looked at it watching the crunch now and watching the crunch back then. It's two totally different styles, and I hate to say it that way, but there's a lot more speed on this crunch team. You guys' teams were a lot more violent. I can tell you on one hand in that one championship game alone, I can tell you how many St. Louis players were thrown into a wall, tackled uncontrollably. I think Otto actually like ninja kicked somebody that was trying to score a goal at one point.
Hey, winning championships is not for the faint of heart here. All right, you got
we completely understand that. We completely understand that.
Yeah,
I am not against that, but I'm not against it. I just remember those 90s crunch teams were a lot more violent. It was a very violent sport back then for those that are watching. You want to look this up? YouTube has a few videos.
Yes,
this crunch team, Otto, Zorn, and Hector's crunch teams were very violent, very exciting, but there is a lot more speed. So that's why I asked, because although there are similarities in those teams combined, the difference on the field is apparent. So I wish we had a simulator. I'd actually like to see how that works.
That'd be cool.
It would. Think about that, man. Somebody getting thrown into a wall, a goal is scored. You can't beat that.
Nope. You know, if you tag speed enough, it'll slow down.
It slows down.
You know.
Problem is those walls get in the way when you got too much speed.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, man.
That is very true.
There's a lot of great players playing for the Crunch right now. I was very impressed Saturday night when I was there. A lot of the guys played for me 6-7 years ago when I coached a semi-pro. Actually, Louis Kostelic with the Cleveland Freeze.
I remember that. Weren't you guys playing at John Carroll at that time?
Yeah, we were together then. A lot of good players. I've said this a long time. There's a lot of talent in Northeast Ohio, and all these young guys are getting an opportunity to prove it right now. And Colorado saw it. Bruce
City saw it.
It's I'm proud of the guys and what they've been doing so far.
That is awesome. Okay, we're gonna touch these two topics really quickly. NCAA hoops. The Elite Eight started today. The only team that I'm really questioning in this tournament as of right now is Gonzaga, and I'm gonna tell you why. Gonzaga has a knack for being that team, which was they are very, very good during the season. They kill everybody they go up against. They get to the tournament and they screw the pooch.
Yep.
I don't want it to be this way because they're the last team on my bracket. Like literally, everybody else is gone. So they are the last team on my bracket. And I'm hoping for the Gonzaga Bulldogs' sake, I am hoping they can actually get rid of the monkey that Hector was saying. I'm hoping they can get rid of that monkey because even since the days of Dick the Cow, they've always had a great team. And yet they have not done what they were supposed to do. And they've had opportunities. I just hope that they get it right this time because I'm not going to say this would be an opportunity for NCAA purposes. I'm not going to say this would be the opportunity to steal one, but this would be an opportunity to show if we were going to get it, this would be the year because they're the number one seed. Offensively, they are damn near unstoppable. And it's just their defense in the later parts of the second half is what scares me. And I don't want that
to lead.
Yeah, that's my issue. I don't want them to squander a lead and then that opportunity is blown.
Now, speaking of updates, Mel, so since you have mentioned it, Houston just took out Oregon State,
Oh
right?
shit!
67-61. So
Damn.
Houston, for the first time since 1984, is heading to the Final Four. So you got a 2 seed there.
That's
So
scary.
that was one. That's very scary, actually. That's a team to follow for sure.
And then
We did see.
Baylor doesn't play Arkansas until 9:57 tonight. So we have to
Mhm.
wait until that game happens. But that Houston game, I'm nervous now.
Yeah, man. And the Pac-12 came on strong this year. No
I
one
was
gave
going
them
to
They
say
did.
credit.
it's Pac-12's year.
They've been
They
killing,
did.
man. Because everybody was picking the Big Ten to win one, man, because they was looking real strong during the season.
And
But
everybody sucked.
hey, yeah, I mean, Michigan's still in it. That's about it.
That was
But
my surprise. I am surprised Michigan has lasted this long. I'm not going to sit
yeah,
here and pretend ignorant. I expected Michigan to be one and done, even though they are a high seed. I expected them to
hmm
be one and done because that was let's be honest. They haven't had it for real since Chris Webber.
true, true.
So
You know,
I was thinking in my head they'll win against we from out of town state, and the next round they see like Arkansas or somebody and they get thrown out. But they've made it this
yeah.
far. I
The last team I remember that had a decent squad was the one that had Trey Burke. And
right.
it was unfortunate because Trey Burke is a Columbus dude, and Ohio State let that slip up. And I really felt like if they would have had Trey Burke on that team, maybe they have a title right now, you know what I mean, in recent years. But, long story short, man, they're there. We will see what they do. But don't count out UCLA because the way they played Bama, man, that was impressive. Because, Bama was that team coming out of SEC this year. And just to see UCLA come back in strong form the way they have and to get that overtime win was really, really impressive. So definitely mark that game for sure as one to watch.
I and you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought it was a conspiracy because historically,
hmm
let's just call it what it is. Historically, I'm not saying this year or in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Historically, the SEC has not been a powerhouse in basketball as a conference.
Oh, never. Oh no,
As
not
a
since
conference,
the yeah.
and
Florida
for
was
and
like
for those and for those watching who are basketball fans, do not beat me up because this is a true statement.
is very true.
You
Same
can't tell
football.
me you've seen an SEC team hoist the tournament trophy at the end of this year. It's not happened recently. What I'm saying is there are power teams in the conference, but as a complete conference, they do not qualify to me as a threat in the NCAA tournament.
They
So
don't.
my
And here's
conspiracy theory, yeah. So my conspiracy theory is Nick Saban coaching Bama's basketball team this year?
man. Look, I don't know if he in the stands, doing what he got to do to kind of whisper something, but I can tell you what they were actually up and coming the last few years. They snuck into the tournament a few years ago. Last year they were kind of bumped back by Georgia, and the guy they had on the team, he went number one overall in the NBA draft this past year, obviously. So of course they stink again, but it's all good. But that's another thing when you have a hometown guy who chooses to stay home. It's the kind
Right.
of impact you have on your school, which is pretty cool to see for one season. But yeah, man, I feel like maybe he whispering a little something. You know what I mean?
Nah, I think
But
he
they went
might be
farther
on
than
the
I thought.
sidelines. Well, yeah, but you got to understand too, in a situation like this, meaning
hmm
tournament time, because for for the sake of this discussion, I don't think people who are tournament fans realize how hard it is in the tournament. Like regular season play, everybody can beat anybody.
hmm
You see in Ohio State, they traditionally in the Big Ten, they do not do well, and thus their team is just that good. And then when they get to the tournament, they turn it up. As you can see, they almost won it this year. If it wasn't for Illinois, who knows? Who knows where they would have been seated, what bracket they would have been put in.
True.
There's a lot of variables with that. But the sleeper teams are what scare me in the tournament. Michigan, for example, they beat a very good FSU team soundly.
Mm-hmm.
Creighton makes it as a 5 seed. Their only problem was they end up seeing Gonzaga,
Yeah.
and then like Coach said that the Pac-12, the Pac-12 is the scariest conference in the tournament every year because at least 6 out of the 14 teams end up making it.
Very true.
At least 6. So that itself is one of those things that makes me look like, are you really watching and paying attention to who's in the tournament, not your bracket? And a lot of
Exactly.
people, but that's the truth. A lot of people pay attention to their bracket instead of who's in the tournament. And when your bracket is busted, it's mainly because you didn't pay attention to who's in the tournament. Like, for who knew Oral Roberts was going to beat Ohio State, and they're a sleeper team.
Didn't see that coming.
Who knew? Who knew OU, a MAC school, was going to make it as far as they did and bust up everybody's bracket?
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, I don't know how the hell they got a #1 seed, but
Yeah, that was weird. That didn't make sense
yeah,
either.
very weird. They didn't even advance far in the Big Ten tournament, yet they make it to a #1 seed, and they knock off Florida State, who was picked to be in the Final Four.
Mm-hmm. And here's another fact too: there are no coaches left that have ever won a national title.
Dang.
So this is going to be awesome. First time for whoever wins it this year.
Oh man, this is really gonna be big then.
Yeah,
Crazy.
that's
COVID makes it crazy.
Man, we've been saying that. We've been saying
been
that since
saying
last
it.
year, man.
Coach, it's like every level of like any sport that we've covered. COVID has done something different to every sport, literally every
Like
single
the
one.
Browns. I didn't think the Browns would do as good as they did. They made the playoffs, beat my
Nah.
Steelers. I wasn't happy about that, but I was happy that they did. They're showing they can play with the bigger teams. So I couldn't be too upset with that. The Lakers. I said it last year. If this was the year LeBron was going to steal one, it would have been a COVID year. What happens? LeBron steals it. Everybody's mad at him, but who else was it? The best argument that we got, I'm gonna say this. This is my personal opinion. Ronnie, you may feel different, but the best argument we got last year was, why is Ohio State in the college football playoff? Like, who else was there? Well, they played less games. Hey, guess what? Everybody lost 2 games because of COVID. Everybody. Clemson included, Alabama included, Notre Dame included. After Ohio State literally demolished 50% of the conference, who else was left? Everybody else that was behind Ohio State, Alabama beat on.
True.
So you're gonna send that same Texas A&M team back to Alabama?
No, absolutely not. And here's something else too. People don't realize, like, when it comes to, the way the Big Ten was set up, the best game that would have been able to see would have been a rematch between Ohio State and Indiana, because Indiana was balling on the football field. For those of you who are like longtime Hoosiers and hoop stories and all that, football, okay, that program is up and coming. They look really good, but they're on the same side of the Big Ten as Ohio State. So by default, you already beat them. You're gonna be in the title game. You know what I mean? So I can't wait to see that rematch, man. That's another one to check out.
Yeah, and they all in the same division too. So it's gonna be something to. It's gonna be something to see.
Definitely. Now, here's the last part about the hoops thing. So you got Houston in it right now in the Final Four. They just won their game against Oregon State. Of course, Baylor and Arkansas go at it at 9:57 tonight. And then tomorrow, for those of you checking it out, you have Gonzaga versus USC. That's going to be a banger too. And then, of course, Michigan versus UCLA. So
I got UCLA on that one.
Yeah, I think UCLA going to shock people. I really do.
But here's the thing. what people don't understand is UCLA has been there. They know as a school, they know what it takes to get there.
Mhm.
So I don't understand why people are sleeping uh on UCLA and USC. It's not like USC is a bad team. They just happen to be in the same conference as UCLA,
Right.
which historically means you don't get to see how good UCLA really is unless UCLA is out the picture.
Mhm. Exactly
So
it.
now you got UCLA versus who's it? Michigan, you said?
Mhm. Yeah, tomorrow.
I don't I'm not saying Michigan is going to lose this one by blowout. I'm going to say Michigan has a lot of defensive discrepancies that they're going to have to answer tomorrow
And
because
as we know in March Madness, your seed level does not mean anything.
it really doesn't. It really doesn't. And with UCLA having a good inside post game, a good 3-point shooting game,
Mhm.
that's like playing the Warriors, man. You don't know who to guard, how to guard it because you're not gonna know what the game plan is until you see it. And even then the game plan can change.
And they all could chuck it up there if they want to. So that's real scary.
All right, so
Yeah,
give
how
me
you
your Final Fours. You guys
um
here.
All right. Let's
Already
see.
got Houston.
We already got
yeah,
Houston.
Houston's given. Houston's given.
We both agreed on UCLA. I'm still sticking with that.
I'm sticking with that too.
I am going to say Baylor and then USC.
I
I'm not.
I'm sticking with Baylor because I honestly believe Baylor poses the biggest threat to Houston and Gonzaga.
They look nasty. Yes, they do.
I'm sticking with that one because there's no way you can pay me to believe that if Baylor has an opportunity, they're going to blow it. They have not done this all year.
Hmm.
I like Baylor too.
And I want to say USC, but they have to they have to keep it close because from
True.
what I've watched of USC all year, when they get when they get stretched out and that lead is, not going in their favor, it causes a problem for them to get back into the game.
That's very
So
true. And Gonzaga's one of those teams that if you let them get ahead enough, they know
they
how to
will take
close out.
advantage.
So
And but my problem with Gonzaga is them holding on to the lead, which is why I said if USC can keep it close, it's a shot. So I'm gonna stick with USC, but I'm gonna put an asterisk by it in case they blow it.
cool. What you thinking, Coach?
Oh, I don't know. Honestly, I haven't watched enough college basketball to give you a real, but I think Gonzaga, if they're ever going to do it, you know,
Do it now. Do it
It's a
now.
year. Yeah, you need to do it now. Yeah,
year, right? I mean, it's everything we're not expecting is happening. So,
Right. Right.
that is true.
And speaking of everything that's happening that we're not expecting, I did come across this. John Carroll bounces back in football against Marietta 34-10. Uh, and I'm not taking anything away from John Carroll. It's just that Mount Union monster is what it is. It's
Oh,
a monster.
yeah.
yeah, man.
And
Yeah.
and nobody like for those that are watching, gonna watched in the past, D3 football, you have to understand it's not like D1 or maybe even D2. D3, you have to literally earn your way in. And Mount Union for the past 30 years has earned their way in, meaning they have literally produced NFL talent. They have literally set the bar for every Division 3 college football team that they will see or that wants to compete. And they have the hardware behind it. They are the all-time leading team in national championships at any division. That says a lot.
Very true.
So for John Carroll to bounce back, I think that was a good thing because like let's call it what it is. John Carroll was actually the last team to knock off Mount Union and knock them off in a big way.
Yeah, 2016.
Yep. Yes. Yep. And took the title, took the OAC title in the process.
Yep.
So,
and then Mount Union made it farther than John Carroll.
and you know what?
Yeah.
Before we change topics, that was something I think most people don't understand either. Is the D3 football tournament, or football playoff rather, is a lot like the NCAA tournament because there are a lot of sleeper teams.
It's a real playoff.
And people don't understand that you don't see real football until the playoffs because you get in D3 you get like one, maybe two non-conference games, and then everything else is conference. You can't travel like Ohio State, like USC, damn near like Hawaii. You can't travel like that because the money ain't there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get to the playoff and you see a team like Case Western, you know, who's in city and should honestly be part of the OAC in my personal opinion.
Yep.
You know, you see them beating or competing with Mount Union. It's not, you know, it's not because the talent isn't there or because they don't want to play each other. That's just the way that the entire field is set up. They don't have the money to travel like that. Like Hawaii spends, I thought I saw one. Hawaii spent like 800,000, close to $1 million on travel not last year, but 2019.
Crazy.
But to be fair, they are the farthest in their conference away from everybody else. So everybody that comes to Hawaii is spending just as much. Yeah.
It's crazy.
The Muskingum Baldwin Wallace game got canceled. Unfortunate. And
John Carroll's football game this Friday got canceled.
Oh man.
Wow.
This coming Friday.
COVID. It's COVID. But here's a shocker. I can't say I saw this coming. Wilmington falls to Heidelberg 38-16. So I hope for the sake of that, to be fair, let's be fair. Heidelberg has always been a decent team. Wilmington, they're coming around, you know, they don't look like the bottom of the barrel anymore.
True.
So I'll stick with them until they show me that they're Wilmington again.
On a serious note, a Heidelberg football player passed away yesterday.
Oh man.
Prayers go out to his family and the Heidelberg community and the Brunswick community. I guess the kid was from Brunswick.
Oh man.
It was a ATV accident and terrible young man, right in his prime. So our thoughts and prayers go out to Heidelberg and Brunswick communities.
Yeah, we send ours out as well. Man, it's always got to be an accident.
Yeah.
All right. What else did we say we were going to talk about? Oh, NFL talk. All right. I'm going to be honest with you. This is not the off season I thought that was going to happen. I thought this was going to be a very quiet off season.
And now every day.
And now I'm nervous. Now I am nervous because the Browns
not very good.
The Browns have made moves I did not think they were going to make, and this makes me nervous. As a Steelers fan, I'm close to shitting a golf ball right now. I'm very close because
you should be.
We all knew. I am.
Yeah,
I am. Believe me, I am.
It's looking real different.
Yeah. But we all knew the problem last year. We all knew the problem last year was defense for the Browns. Meaning
especially the safety position.
Yeah, the secondary. It was just the secondary because the Browns were top 10 in stopping the run. So that wasn't the problem. The problem was stopping the pass, which is something I had wrote about for Cleveland Sports Talk all season. I thought they were going to handle that problem in, free agency during the season, but they never did. Okay, that's fine. You go out and get the top safety or top 5 safety. You go out and get the top 5 corner or slot cornerback, and then you re-sign most of the defense that was on the verge of leaving. So I think it was Smith is coming back, Mac Wilson's staying. You let go of Ogunjobi. I think they let go of Vernon, right?
Yeah, they let go of Vernon.
Yeah. Okay,
And
Vernon's
they
gone.
signed a linebacker from Tennessee. Was it Tennessee?
Colts linebacker.
The Colts.
It was the Colts
yeah.
linebacker. And
Which I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah.
I didn't either because ironically
like,
his only interception of the season,
was against Cleveland.
It's against Baker. So now I'm like, okay, I don't like the way this is going. Meanwhile, the Steelers let go of Bud Dupree, which was stupid.
Why, man?
We do sign a lineman because we actually need a lineman. And then, Juju and his, I'm not gonna call him retarded, but Juju's mind games. Juju's mind game and Jedi mind trick didn't work. I guess testing the market, didn't realize that it's a soft market this year for wide receivers. And he re-signs, which is a good thing. Man, I'm not happy with this. I thought, because historically, the Roonies are very good at free agency. They're very good in the draft. I thought they would make some splashes. Didn't realize I was playing myself because Ben silly ass decided to come back, which ain't always, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not, because I honestly don't trust Mason Rudolph. I don't trust anybody else behind. I don't trust anybody else behind Mason Rudolph. The one person I did trust, which was JT Barrett, they let go 2 years ago.
They did.
So I'm like not thrilled about this offseason. Hopefully the draft coming up is a little bit better. Joe Burrow comes back. We'll see how he does in Cincinnati.
You guys are in trouble. Go ahead and say it.
We are. I'm nervous. The only team I can see that I would, as a Browns fan, I would be worried about is Baltimore.
Ravens,
because Baltimore is keeping pace with the Browns. They see what's going on.
Ravens are solid.
Yeah, it's solid.
Yeah. And that's what's scary. As a football fan who likes to see action-paced football, that's what scares me. You see the Browns are on your heels, but yet you are still making moves to keep pace. I don't even think the Steelers are even in the divisional race anymore. This shit's between Baltimore and Cleveland. I think Baker got a grudge against Lamar. He don't want to openly say it, but I think he does.
He does. He does. That last game.
Oh my God.
Oh man, that was so exciting though. But then
it wasn't for Lamar. Man. Browns killed the Ravens.
There you go.
Yeah,
that game that kid was ridiculous. That game.
It was crazy. And then
was even. I was gonna say he went to go take a dookie and came back and won the game for y'all. All right, my stomach clear now, y'all. We good.
Right. Say what you want. Say what you want, but that's what happened. Everybody's seen it. Everybody's seen it.
Yeah.
And then, but the thing is with them this year, it was cool to see that J.K. Dobbins would be their premier back. And then them getting Sammy Watkins. That's a huge win for them too as well.
How the hell did that happen?
Look, man, you figure they only had Marquise Brown going deep, right? He was not running his routes crisp enough. And then you had Mark Andrews was the primary target for 2 years in a row. We all know this. And what Lamar does with his feet, it's crazy because he can do literally anything that coaches tell quarterbacks not to do in order to make a play. So you're going to follow him because he's just going to be needing some help. The one guy trying to come at him is not enough. That guy's going to miss. Let's just talk about it. So you got 2 guys going this way, and Andrews is always open because the linebackers are shifting away from that tight end, and that dude's going to be open every single time. That's just what it is. It works. But having Sammy Watkins down, him and Brown opposite, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But But I'm happy to see Dobbins get the nod because that was something you and I had talked about with them having, Mark Ingram there before he left, and Dobbins being behind him. I was like, as the season went on, I'm like, this is Dobbins' job, man. I realize that, and he finally got it. So shout out to him, former Ohio State player, getting in there. But yeah, with the Browns, man, them doing what they did on defense to sign them guys, and now they go into the draft. Like,
Man, shut
see
up.
what happens.
Shut up.
I wonder will they trade. Honestly, I wonder will they trade down.
I don't think they will, because here's the thing. You don't need, as if I'm the Browns, and this is coming from a strictly football standpoint.
Okay.
If I'm the Browns, you don't need a lot. I listened to 92.3 this morning,
You don't.
and
Not
they
right
were
now,
talking
no.
about, getting another receiver. In my head, why would
Another
you?
receiver. Yeah, don't do
Yeah.
that. You don't need another one.
Hey,
You
man,
got Odell coming
Jeff
back. You got Higgins re-signed. Thank God.
Peoples
Please
Jones
resign.
and Jarvis. Not to
Yeah, you
mention you
don't need
still got
another runner.
Not to mention you still got Njoku, you still got Hooper. I'm not sold on Bryant, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a linebacker come in somewhere.
There's got to be.
But you can
First two
yeah.
rounds. First 2 rounds.
And
Yeah.
that was my thinking. Like, you don't need a lot. So because you don't need a lot, you draft for what you need. And I wouldn't trade. You don't have to, unless it's somebody that absolutely jumps off the board
Yep.
defensively that you may not get. And I honestly believe that this is an offensive geared draft this year. I sit where I'm at. I wait for the linebacker or the defensive lineman we need to complement Garrett, and we take it from there. You already know, and let's look at reality. You already know there's still XFL players out there looking for a spot.
True.
There are still Canadian players or like guys that are coming back from the Canadian League looking for a spot. And it's not really like you're going to get penalized from picking up a player from Canada. I've never seen it happen. I've never heard of it happening. But these are all avenues that I think the Browns should do. Even if you don't like the Rooneys as an ownership, this is what they do very well. They find gems in other areas. They picked up the offensive tackle from the XFL last year. He ended up panning out very well. I think the Browns should take a page out of that book and save themselves some money, because that cap is getting real close for them.
True.
And if you're gonna like coast your way through, this would be the year, because the cap opens up again next year. So you play it safe this year. You have most of what you need. You draft a linebacker. You're not spending a lot on them, and just go from there. But hearing 92.3 and I love Jeff Phelps, but hearing him say, would you get another receiver? Like, why would you? You have more than enough for that ball to go around.
And Mel, you're talking about the salary cap. It's another thing you got to look at too in the next couple of years, because you've got to figure out, okay, how do we re-sign Baker? How do you extend Chubb? What do you do with Kareem Hunt? Because he had a 2-year deal, so this is going to be another year. You got to figure that out. And then ultimately, Denzel Ward. These are all rookie contracts that are expiring. So
Jarvis
is in the mix as well.
But here's the good thing about this, and this is just my personal opinion on it. I feel like Jarvis and Baker have such good chemistry. Jarvis, if needed, may take a pay cut or restructure.
Yeah, restructure.
And I think that's a good way to go for most players, because restructuring, in most cases, most players are not mad about the money. They're mad about the years, which is what the issue was in Dallas with Dak. Dak wanted the years to match the money. Jerry doesn't do that. And he hasn't done it, I would say, the last maybe 10 years, which was a problem for him to keep players in Dallas. Because if I'm a player like Dak I know the money's going to be there. You're playing for one of the most famous sports teams in all of the world. The money will be there. I want the years to match the money. So
True.
if I'm Jarvis, I restructure, or if I'm the front office rather, I talk to Jarvis and get him to restructure. The only real issue you're gonna have is getting Odell to restructure his or take a pay cut. Because let's be honest, you
Yeah.
can't trade him. You can't trade him.
Oh no.
Nobody wants a $93 million contract. You still got to
Nope.
pay him. You don't. His trade value dropped after the ACL injury. It's not his fault, but it happened.
True.
So what I would do is I'd sit down with Jarvis. I'd sit down with Odell at the same time. Look, we want to keep you guys. Jarvis, we already know you in. Odell, we know you want to stay. So what do we have to do to get this situated to where we can keep you re-sign Denzel, re-sign Baker, re-sign Chubb. Hunt's already here. Hunt's still trying to rebuild. So we'll see how that plays out. But if I'm front office of the Browns, I try to restructure Jarvis and Odell, give myself some cap space, and then when the cap opens back up next year, I take advantage.
That's a good take, man, because with that, you figure those players are the only real concern. We extended Garrett for a while. The offensive line, like I had said during the season, they're a lock for the next 2 or 3 seasons. We ain't got to worry about them at all, which is amazing, right? So it's just these 4, key guys we got to figure out what to do with. That's pretty much it.
Well, the question is going to be, how bad do they want to win a Super Bowl? You willing to restructure to win a Super Bowl?
Right.
Or about the money?
To the end of the day, who are you going to go to?
Yeah. I'm not going to say I know what it's like, because I don't. I've never made that kind of money playing football. I probably never will, but I do know how hard it is to win a championship. Hector, you know this as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know how hard it is just to make the playoffs. Let's just start here.
Yeah.
So, and Odell hadn't seen the playoffs in 3-4 years before he got to Cleveland. Jarvis only saw the playoffs one time, and that was basically the luck of a draw. Baker, Chubb, Denzel, and all of them guys never saw the playoffs. So I think now, if you were going to make them build that chemistry even better, this would be the time to do it, because now everybody's basically on the same page. We just made it, won our first playoff game since '94. What we got to do to keep it going?
Yeah.
There's a lot of momentum there. And honestly, what Stephen A said last year, I'm sticking with it. I think the Browns, outside of the Ravens, I think the Browns are the biggest threat to the Chiefs, because the evidence is there. That playoff game, the evidence showed. If it's not for a bullshit call, I don't think the Chiefs make it to the Super Bowl.
They don't.
I think we're talking about seeing a Browns team possibly play the Buccaneers. You never know if that call doesn't get made.
Yeah, that's a big momentum killer.
Right.
Goodness gracious.
And
I think the Browns are going to be able to sell it to the players, because I think they realize now that, hey, we got players that want to come to Cleveland, right? Look at the team. Look at the team ownership's putting on the field, the management, right? This is special. I mean, where else are you going to go and be surrounded like, the team they have right now? I mean, it's what they've done over the last 2 off seasons has been incredible. And everybody, if you're a player on that team and you don't see something special being built, then you should be
wrong with you.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And then you did it with a first-year head coach
who actually got Coach of the Year.
Yeah, through Zoom.
He got Coach of the Year.
Zoom, Mel, through Zoom.
Hey,
just saying.
Mel, why do you keep saying we?
No, I said do coach. Whoa! I didn't say we. I said he got coach of the year. Remember that. I didn't say we. I'm sticking with my team. But as a journalist, I have to be unbiased.
That's true.
As a journalist, I have to be unbiased, and I will be honest. Watching the Browns and writing for the Browns last year made football for me that much more exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
Because for a long time, football was not exciting. You knew who was going to make the playoffs. You knew who was a damn near pick for the win the Super Bowl. So watching last season, I'm not a Browns fan. I'm a football fan. And watching the Browns compete, they went into Dallas, dog walk Dallas. They pretty much swept the whole NFC East. They swept the AFC South. You don't see that happen that often.
Swept 2 whole divisions in one season. No one did that.
You can't sweep one division back. Well, up until last year, you couldn't sweep one division, which was your own. So that just made it that much more exciting. And I'm interested in seeing this draft. I am going to be paying close attention to the draft when it gets here.
You know, Coach, you have to see some stuff that Mel has wrote, especially with teams, you know, that the Browns have played, the ones that he would support. And there's been times where he would pick the Browns to win because, like you said, he has to be unbiased in that approach.
He's a professional.
You know, we truly, for sure. And, you know, we know a lot about the game. And it's just been cool to be able to have those discussions. Yeah. And the main reason why we even decided to do this in the first place, because, you know, this dynamic, it just works, you know. So that's the main thing, man. I was like, if I can talk to someone who, you know, supports a rival and they're like, look, you know, that week is awkward during that week, you know, but outside of that week, it's really awkward. Oh my gosh. We were literally on here with our team shirts and everything. It was just crazy. I loved it. It was great.
And then I end up looking foolish because the first game I got one off, and then the rest of the time I'm looking foolish, especially in the playoff game. I had a good friend of mine, Brian Perkowski. Shout out to Brick. They literally see me looking at the screen, and I am in disbelief at every time the Browns score. I'm looking up at the scoreboard. I'm looking at Ronnie. I'm looking at Brick, and they're just laughing. I'm like, man, this is not funny. I don't appreciate y'all rubbing this in. Y'all are rude.
It was so bad. It was so bad, Coach, to the point where like I'd be mid-sentence talking about whatever topic we had. I'm just like, I just couldn't keep it in, man. It was raw. It was just raw.
And what's crazy is I never did any of this to him. Never.
Man, you just
when they lost, look, we saw what happened. We know what y'all need to do. Let's move on.
Yeah. And you know, the cool part about it too was I think, and it wasn't even in spite of Pittsburgh, it was the fact that the last time I saw anything, you know, close to this was I was in the 3rd grade. You know what I mean? Like, that's a long time. You know, 35, probably 36, a long time. You know what I mean? So for me, it was just like pure, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I don't know what's happening right now. This is weird, you know. Because that first win, we're like, all right, whatever, man. But I don't know. I think part of it too was I had people that were watching who I knew supported Pittsburgh that was giving me a whole bunch of crap. And you know, for
you take it out on me.
Well, no, not on you, but I knew they were watching, so more of it was like them, like, you know, seeing my excitement. You know what I mean during the game. It was getting on
that shit.
But you saw the memes. You know, I didn't shoot the memes over it. People was being ignorant. They was tagging him and stuff. I was like, I ain't going that far with it. I said, I'm not that.
That's cool. It's cool. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. I'm gonna tell you, enjoy it, because I guarantee you, when the Steelers bounce back, I'm going to give you all hell. Just letting you know now, it's coming.
Hey, you know what they should do, man? They better wrap up like shoot, they need to get somebody like Justin Fields or something.
I'm still waiting. It's still early. You know, it's still early. Trade talks. It might happen. You never know. It might happen.
For real. So
All right, folks, that it will do it for this episode of a Monday night 4th and 15 with Mel and Smooth. We'd like to thank Coach Hector for being on, being a great guest. Don't forget to like and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Don't forget to check out John Carroll soccer games. I'm pretty sure you got a couple games left, Coach.
Sure do. This Thursday we're at BW.
Oh man, head over to George Finney Stadium and get that going.
3:00 Thursday.
3:00 Thursday. Check them out. Coach
7
Hector
o'clock.
probably got it. Oh, 7.
7.
Oh, that's even better. It's a night game.
Yeah, it's high of 30. Beautiful soccer weather.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check that out on the radio because I don't think I want to be in 30-degree weather. But
Browns football weather right there.
yeah, and
Right.
seriously, don't forget, if you are a soccer fan, go over and check out Baldwin Wallace versus John Carroll. If you're a big soccer fan, please follow the Crunch. Check them out. They are playing at the Soccerplex in North Olmsted. The home schedule is posted on our fan page. Just, bring soccer back to the glory days. It's not bad. Indoor soccer is a lot more fun. So go check it out. It's warm too. There ain't no 30 degrees outside.
And they serve beer.
Yes, beer.
Right?
Yep.
Yes.
But we'd like to thank you again, Coach Hector. You're always welcome back.
Yes,
Guys,
great.
thank you so much for having me. I had a blast with you guys, and best of luck to both of you guys. Peace.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right. For 4th and 15, I'm Mel. That's Smooth. Peace.